There comes a point in your life when you're just done. Done with trying to impress people. Done with seeking approval. Done with playing by invisible rules written by strangers you'll never meet. And it's not about becoming cold or emotionless or indifferent. It's not about giving up on life. It's about something much more powerful. It's about reclaiming your mind. See, most people are exhausted, not because life is hard, but because they are constantly at war with how things should be. They suffer because someone didn't text back. They spiral because their boss gave them a weird look. They lose sleep over what might happen in a future that doesn't even exist yet. But there's a secret that ancient mystics, stoic philosophers, and modern spiritual teachers have always whispered, a secret that very few actually live. Freedom begins the moment you stop giving a shit about everything that doesn't matter. You've probably heard the phrase thrown around carelessly. Don't give a shit. Let it go. Move on. But most people who say it don't understand what it really means. They think it's about apathy. They think it's about suppressing emotions. They think it's about not caring about anything. But here's the truth. Not giving a shit is not about not feeling. It's about choosing what deserves your energy. Because in the end, you are either a slave to the world or a master of your perception. You either spend your life reacting or reclaim your power by becoming the observer. This is a manifesto for the untouchable mind, for the man or woman who chooses peace over performance, presence over perfection, and silence over noise. This isn't a self-help guide. It's a declaration of spiritual rebellion. And if you're reading this, you've probably felt it too, that quiet voice inside you whispering, enough, enough pretending, enough performing, enough carrying the weight of a world that was never yours to carry. This is where we begin, not with more goals, not with more healing, but with the radical choice to say, I don't give a shit anymore, and for the first time in my life, I'm free. Let's be honest, most people live like puppets. They wake up, check their phones, and immediately hand over their peace to the world. A notification ruins their mood. A headline hijacks their mind. A stranger's opinion sets the tone for the rest of their day, and it's not even their fault, not entirely. We were raised to care too much. We were taught that what others think of us matters more than what we know about ourselves. From childhood, we were rewarded for being pleasing, polite, agreeable, obedient. And so, little by little, we learned to abandon our inner world to survive in the outer one. Every time you adjusted your truth to be liked, every time you swallowed your pain to keep the peace, every time you said yes when your soul screamed no, you gave the world a little more power over you. And now, here you are, wondering why you feel anxious, lost, or empty. It's because your identity was built on borrowed opinions and fragile validations. You've become a mirror of other people's expectations. And like a mirror, your sense of self cracks the moment something external shifts. This is why you're triggered so easily. Why one comment can ruin your week. Why the world feels overwhelming. Because you're not living from within. You're reacting from without. But here's the brutal truth. The world only controls you if you let it. Control is not something others take from you. It's something you surrender. Every time you believe that someone else's words can define you, that your worth depends on outcomes, that peace can only come when everything outside aligns. What if none of that is true? What if the chaos isn't around you but inside you? What if the traffic jam, the rejection, the disrespect, they're not the real problem? What if the real prison is your belief that you need to respond to all of it? Most people walk through life with their emotional strings fully exposed. Anyone can pull them. An insult, a look, a delay. And every reaction is like handing someone the remote control to your mind. You think you're free, but you're just highly programmable. Controlled not by dictators, but by dopamine. Not by oppressors, but by algorithms. Not by truth, but by triggers. And every time you react, you reinforce the cage. Your brain fires the same neurons. You deepen the same patterns. You become more and more addicted to your own suffering because it feels familiar. You're not controlled by the world. You're controlled by how you interpret it. This is the foundation of your awakening. To realize that the war isn't with what's happening. It's with what you think is happening. The moment you shift that, you're no longer a puppet. You're the one holding the strings. Not giving a shit isn't about being indifferent to life. It's about being untouchable by its illusions. The opinions of others, illusions. The rules of society, illusions. The idea that you need to constantly prove your worth to be loved, the biggest illusion of all. When you see through these, something breaks open. The prison door disappears. The noise goes silent. The compulsive need to please, to win, to be validated, dissolves. And what remains is you, the real you, the one who never needed the world's permission to be free. So ask yourself, who do you become when you stop reacting? What kind of power returns to you the moment you decide to stop caring about everything that doesn't truly matter? This isn't a philosophical question. It's a choice you make in every moment. And the answer to that question? It changes everything. You didn't choose to live in reaction mode, it was programmed into you. From the first time you cried as a child and someone rushed to soothe you, you learned that the world reacts to emotion. From the first time you were punished for saying something uncomfortable, you learned to suppress your truth. From the first time you were rewarded for being agreeable, you learned to abandon your instincts. Every praise, every punishment, every subtle cue taught you something. Don't be too much, don't be too angry. Don't be too loud, don't make people uncomfortable. Don't feel what you feel. Feel what makes others feel safe. And so you adapted. You learned to hide your fire to stay loved. You learned to laugh when you were hurting. You learned to be calm when your soul wanted to scream. You became a master of emotional camouflage. But the price of that camouflage was your power. Because every time you repressed an emotion to be accepted, you created a fracture inside, a divide between who you are and who you pretend to be. And that divide became the birthplace of all your anxiety. Anxiety isn't just a chemical imbalance. It's the signal your soul sends when it's been silenced for too long. When you keep saying yes to things that drain you, when you keep playing a role that doesn't fit, when you keep reacting to a world that has no idea who you really are. That's what reaction is. The echo of an identity you never chose but were forced to wear. And society loves it that way. Because people who are reactive are easy to control. People who are emotionally unstable are easy to manipulate. People who fear judgment will always stay small. So you become addicted to approval. You chase likes. You edit your truth. You filter your soul. All for a brief, hollow moment of being seen by people who don't even know who you are. And then you wonder why you feel fake, why your joy doesn't last, why peace slips away the moment something goes wrong. It's because you're living in a world of mirrors, reacting to reflections instead of grounding in reality. Here's the truth. No one told you. You were never meant to live in reaction. You were meant to live in response. Reaction is fast, unconscious, impulsive. Response is grounded, intentional, conscious. Reaction is a reflex of your past wounds. Response is the voice of your present awareness. When someone criticizes you, your reaction might be defensiveness. Your response might be silence, curiosity, or even laughter. When something doesn't go your way, your reaction might be frustration. Your response might be acceptance, creativity, or redirection. The difference between reaction and response is the difference between slavery and freedom. But here's the catch. You can't respond consciously until you pause. Until you create that sacred space between stimulus and response. Until you stop long enough to ask, what is this really triggering in me? What story am I telling myself right now? Is this even about them? Or is this about an old wound I haven't healed? Because that's the key. Reactions aren't caused by the world, they're revealed by it. The world doesn't make you angry. It just shows you the anger you've been carrying. The world doesn't make you insecure. It just mirrors the parts of you that still seek validation. And the moment you realize that, everything shifts. You stop trying to control the world. You start observing your own patterns. You stop blaming others for how you feel. You start reclaiming responsibility for your energy. This is where true power begins. Not in changing the world, but in changing the way you meet it. You don't need a new job, a new relationship, or a new life to feel peace. You need a new relationship with your mind. You need to stop reacting. Because every reaction is a choice, and even if you don't realize you're making it. And if you can choose reaction, you can choose silence. You can choose stillness. You can choose not to give a shit. Not because you're numb, but because you're free. And that's where we're going next. Before you can be free, something inside you has to die. Not your spirit, not your soul, but the version of you that was never real to begin with. The one who believed their worth was measured by performance. The one who needed everyone to like them. The one who built an identity around fear, approval, image, and survival. That version of you was built out of necessity, but it cannot follow you into freedom. And here's the paradox. The self you think you are is the very thing standing in the way of your peace. You were taught to construct an identity, to define yourself with roles, titles, preferences, beliefs, behaviors, to say, "I am this kind of person," as if that label could capture the complexity of your being. But identity is not who you are. Identity is a costume. It's a story. It's a survival strategy. And you've worn it for so long, you've forgotten it's not your skin. You think the anxious thoughts are you. You think the insecurities are you. You think the need to control, to defend, to be right is who you are. But it's not. It's just who you had to become to make sense of a chaotic world. It's the mask you built to protect yourself from rejection, abandonment, shame. And the longer you wear the mask, the more you forget what's underneath. But life has a way of revealing it. When things fall apart, when you're rejected, when you lose control, suddenly the old identity doesn't work anymore. The things that used to give you security now make you feel hollow. The people who once validated you now drain your energy. The patterns that kept you safe now keep you stuck. That's not a crisis. That's the call to awaken. It's the death of the false self, and yes, it will feel like dying. You will mourn it. You will resist it. You will try to fix it, save it, rebuild it. But the only way out is through. You have to let it burn. You have to allow the story to collapse. Every narrative that says, "I need to be this to be loved. I need to do this to be worthy. I need this person to complete me." Because freedom doesn't come from adding more. It comes from releasing what was never you. Who are you without the opinions of others? Who are you without the job title, the aesthetic, the social mask? Who are you when nothing is left but presence? This is why spiritual teachers talk about ego death. Not because you become less, but because you become real. You stop living as a reaction to your wounds. You stop chasing the illusion of safety. You stop being driven by fear, dressed as ambition. And for the first time, you breathe. You feel light, not because your life is perfect, but because your identity is no longer your cage. You no longer need to impress anyone. You no longer need to defend your worth. You no longer need to be understood, validated, or praised. Because now you know, those things never filled you. They just distracted you from your emptiness. And when you sit with that emptiness, something strange happens. It doesn't kill you, it frees you. Because in that silence, you discover the self that needs nothing. The self that watches, witnesses, and allows. The self that doesn't give a shit. Not because it's cold, but because it's whole. And wholeness is the most dangerous thing you can carry in a world addicted to approval. Because a whole person can't be manipulated. They can't be controlled. They can't be seduced by the game of image, status, or drama. They are untouchable. And that's what the world fears. Not rebels who scream, but souls who are silent. Souls who don't play by the script. Souls who walk away instead of reacting. Souls who hold their peace while the world burns, because those souls are free. And nothing terrifies a reactive world more than someone who cannot be provoked. So if you feel like everything around you is collapsing, if the old version of you is falling apart, let it. That's not the end. That's the beginning. The fire is not here to destroy you. It's here to burn away what you never needed to begin with. And what's left after the ashes, that's who you've always been. There is one thing that separates the peaceful from the restless, the stable from the anxious, the free from the enslaved. It's not money. It's not status. It's not power. It's perception. The world is not what you think it is. It never was. It never will be. The world is not kind or cruel, good or bad, fair or unjust. The world simply is. Everything else, and every label, every judgment, every emotional charge comes from you. Your perception is the lens, and that lens either distorts reality or clarifies it. Think about it. Two people go through the same breakup. One collapses, believing they've lost everything. The other sees it as liberation, a return to self. Same event. Two completely different worlds. Two people lose a job. One spirals into despair, convinced they're a failure. The other uses it as fuel to build something new. Again, same circumstance, radically different outcomes. What changed? Not the world, the filter. And here's the kicker. Your filter isn't neutral. It's shaped by your wounds, your conditioning, your past experiences, your unresolved fears. You don't see the world as it is, you see it as you are. If you're insecure, you'll see threats in every glance. If you're wounded, you'll see rejection in every silence. If you're afraid, you'll see danger in every unknown. This is why perception is everything. Because until you master your perception, the world will keep controlling your emotions. Most people don't understand this. They spend their lives trying to rearrange the world, fix people, manage outcomes, avoid discomfort, all in the name of peace. But peace doesn't come from control. It comes from clarity. You don't need to control the storm. You need to stop believing the storm is personal. You don't need to win every battle. You need to see that most battles are illusions. You don't need the world to be different. You need to stop projecting your pain onto it. Because here's the truth. The world isn't attacking you. It's reflecting you. It's showing you what you believe. It's echoing what you carry. It's mirroring your relationship with yourself. And the moment you realize that, you stop fighting. You stop trying to fix people. You stop chasing validation. You stop arguing with reality. You stop trying to manipulate the mirror, and instead, you change what it reflects. That's the power of perception. When someone disrespects you and you remain calm, that's power. When life falls apart and you respond with acceptance, that's freedom. When the world screams and you don't flinch, that's mastery. You don't need to win the argument. You don't need to be right. You don't need to prove your worth. You just need to see clearly. And here's what you'll see when the lens becomes clean. That most of the pain you carry wasn't caused by what happened, but by the meaning you gave it. Someone leaves you. You decide it means you're unlovable. You fail. You decide it means you're a failure. You're rejected. You decide it means you're not enough. But those were never facts. They were stories. And perception is the storyteller. You can write a new story, one where rejection means redirection, one where failure means wisdom, one where every challenge is a mirror, not a threat. But first, you must stop trying to control everything. Control is a lie. It's the illusion your ego clings to in order to avoid pain. But pain isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. And clarity is what it gives you, and when you stop running and start listening. So let go. Let go of the need to be right. Let go of the need to be liked. Let go of the need to fix everything. You're not here to bend the world to your will. You're here to see the world as it is and rise above it. And once you do that, you become unstoppable. Because nothing can hurt the one who sees clearly. Nothing can shake the one who no longer reacts. Nothing can enslave the one who owns their perception. Control nothing, own everything, and you will know peace. It's time to dismantle a lie that's been sold to you your whole life, that caring about everything makes you good, moral, responsible, evolved. It doesn't. It makes you exhausted. You were not born to care about every opinion, every outcome, every emotional twitch in the atmosphere around you. You were not born to carry the weight of everyone else's expectations. You were not born to shrink your light just to make others comfortable. But that's what you've been taught. Care what they think. Care how you sound. Care how you look. Care what happens next. Care, 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 until you're nothing but a sponge absorbing everyone else's projections. And then you wonder why you feel anxious, why you can't sleep, why your chest is tight and your thoughts won't stop. You're not broken. You've just been caring about too much that was never yours to hold. This is not about becoming reckless. This is not about rejecting compassion or love or human connection. This is about spiritual rebellion, the kind that starts inside, quietly, and burns down the illusions you've been living under. Rebellion in this context means freedom from false obligations. You are not obligated to feel bad because someone else is uncomfortable. You are not obligated to explain yourself to people who will never understand you. You are not obligated to keep proving your worth, your intentions, your goodness. This idea that a good person always cares is a trap. A good person isn't one who breaks their back for everyone else's comfort. A good person is one who knows what truly matters and aligns their energy with that, without apology. The truth is, most people who are chronically nice are not kind. They are afraid. Afraid of being disliked, afraid of conflict, afraid of rejection, afraid of looking selfish. But when you begin to wake up, when you begin to reclaim your energy, something strange happens. You start to feel lighter, calmer, clearer. Because your energy is no longer being bled out through meaningless reactions. You stop wasting time on arguments that go nowhere. You stop entertaining people who drain your soul. You stop trying to rescue those who don't want to be saved. You stop giving a shit. And that doesn't make you cold, and it makes you clean. Clean of guilt, clean of shame, clean of false responsibility. People will accuse you of being arrogant, selfish, distant. Let them project. That's what happens when you remove yourself from the emotional economy of a reactive world. They don't know how to process your peace. They'll call you heartless, because your heart is no longer available for chaos. They'll call you detached, because your soul no longer trades in drama. They'll call you changed, and they'll be right, because now you're no longer emotionally on call. You're no longer accessible to the chaos you used to attract. You're no longer addicted to the noise of approval, validation, or explanation. You've chosen stillness. You've chosen sovereignty. You've chosen silence. This is the rebellion, to care so deeply about your inner world that you stop compromising it for a broken outer one. To love yourself so radically that you stop negotiating your peace. To let go of every mental leash, every energetic hook, every guilt-fueled obligation that kept you in emotional servitude. Because when you stop giving a shit about what doesn't matter, you create space for what does. You begin to care about things that actually nourish your soul, the sound of your breath, the quality of your presence, the people who see you clearly, the moments of stillness between all the noise. This is what it means to stop giving a shit. It means ending your addiction to over-identification. It means no longer reacting out of fear. It means becoming a guardian of your own peace. So the next time someone tells you you've changed, smile. They're right. You've changed the way you value yourself. And there is no deeper spiritual act than that. Carl Jung didn't write self-help books. He wasn't trying to make people feel better. He was trying to wake them up, and what he said still echoes through the bones of anyone ready to confront the truth. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Most people don't know who they are. They know their name, their job, their opinions, their social identity, but not the forces underneath all of it. The fear that drives them, the anger they suppress, the shame they inherited, all of that lives in the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It's not something to destroy. It's the part of you that was never loved, never accepted, never allowed to breathe. So it went underground, and when something is repressed, it doesn't disappear. It controls you from the dark. It shows up in your reactivity, in your jealousy, in your passive aggression, in your insecurity, in the way you sabotage good things because some part of you doesn't believe you deserve them. You think you're reacting to the world, but you're not. You're reacting to your shadow, the parts of yourself you've refused to face. That's why insults hurt you. That's why rejection shakes you. That's why failure feels like death. Because you've built an identity on the surface while abandoning the underground. And what Jung warned us is simple, but terrifying. If you don't face the shadow becomes your life. You become a puppet of your own hidden wounds. You think it's the world that's cruel, but it's you, hurting yourself in ways you can't yet see. This is the hidden cost of ignoring your darkness. You become fragile, not strong, not spiritual, just fragile, wrapped in a mask of peace while secretly raging underneath. That's what being triggered really is. A trigger is not something someone else causes. A trigger is a signal from your shadow saying, you have work to do. You're not angry because they said something cruel. You're angry because you haven't made peace with the part of you that fears it might be true. You're not hurt because they ignored you. You're hurt because you've built your self-worth on being seen. You're not jealous because they're winning. You're jealous because you haven't forgiven yourself for settling. All of it is you. This is not about blame. It's about radical ownership. Because once you own your shadow, something changes. You stop needing to defend your image. You stop needing to prove your worth. You stop needing to explain your emotions. You begin to integrate. And integration is power. When you say, yes, I have anger. Yes, I have fear. Yes, I've lied, hurt, failed, broken, and you no longer flinch. That's when the shadow loses control. That's when you stop reacting and start responding. Because now, the parts of you that once hijacked your behavior are sitting at the table with you. Seen, acknowledged, accepted. And when you do that, the world outside softens, not because it changed, but because you're no longer projecting your unhealed parts onto it. This is what Jung tried to show us, that freedom isn't found in avoiding darkness, it's found in walking into it, with your eyes wide open, to stop running, to stop pretending, to stop calling your fear intuition, your avoidance boundaries, your ego wisdom, to strip everything down and see what's really there. Because only then can you stop giving a shit, not as rebellion, but as transcendence, not as avoidance, but as maturity, not as numbness, but as clarity. Because when the shadow is integrated, you no longer need the world to validate you. You are not reactive, you are not fragile, you are whole, and a whole person cannot be controlled. Most people spend their entire lives trying to control what was never theirs to control. They want people to behave a certain way. They want life to be predictable. They want emotions to be tidy. They want outcomes to obey their timelines. They want the universe to follow their expectations. And when it doesn't, and which it never does, they suffer. But here's the truth that nobody wants to accept. Control is a myth. You were never in control. Not of other people, not of circumstances, not of how life unfolds. The only thing you've ever had even a chance at mastering is your own mind. And even that requires relentless discipline. Every time you cling to control, you create suffering. You want someone to love you, and they don't. You want a plan to work, and it collapses. You want everything to be okay, and chaos strikes. So what do? You react, you resist. You tighten your grip on a rope that's burning your hands. That's what attachment is. A clenched fist around something impermanent. You don't suffer because life is hard. You suffer because you keep demanding that it be easy. You suffer because you keep asking the world to bend to your will instead of adjusting your perception. And that's where detachment becomes essential. But detachment has been deeply misunderstood. It's not coldness, it's not indifference, it's not giving up. It's letting go of the illusion that you need the world to align perfectly in order for you to be okay. It's the deep spiritual maturity that says, I can love you and not need you. I can want this and still be whole without it. I can feel disappointment without becoming destroyed. That's power. To be able to stand in the middle of chaos, uncertainty, and shifting outcomes and remain centered, because your peace is no longer negotiable. Most people live on emotional autopilot because they've confused desire with attachment. Desire is natural. You want love, freedom, success? Fine. But attachment is when that desire becomes an identity. When you believe, if I don't get this, I'm nothing. If they leave, I collapse. If I fail, I'm worthless. That's not love. That's not passion. That's addiction. And every time you act from attachment, you lose power. You chase, you beg, you micromanage, you exhaust yourself. But the more you release attachment, the more you align with flow. Because detachment doesn't mean not caring. It means caring deeply but not being owned by the outcome. It means showing up fully but releasing the need for validation. It means dreaming big but staying grounded in the now. This is what the mystics meant when they said, die before you die. Let the false control die. Let the ego's grip die. Let the idea that your worth is measured by your outcomes die. And then you live, free, still, untouchable. Not because you're emotionless, but because you are rooted in something deeper than emotion, awareness. You watch your thoughts, you watch your fears, you watch the world unfold, and you respond without clinging. This is the art of detachment. It is not passivity, it is precision. The precision of knowing what's yours and what's not. The precision of acting without addiction to results. The precision of walking through fire without letting it consume you. When you understand this, you no longer need to control the waves. You become the ocean. And an ocean doesn't fear the storm. You were not born unshakable. You were born open, sensitive, vulnerable. That's not a flaw. It's the default setting of a human soul. But somewhere along the way, you became reactive, defensive, fragile. And now you think that's who you are. It's not. Reactivity is a program. Fragility is a learned response. Emotional volatility is a byproduct of a scattered, untrained mind. But here's the good news. The mind is trainable. Your peace is buildable. Your power is reclaimable. You don't become unshakable by accident. You become unshakable by discipline. And not the kind of discipline you've been taught. Not white-knuckling, not forcing, not punishing. Real discipline is about devotion. A sacred commitment to stay with yourself no matter what the world throws at you. Here's how it begins. 1. Learn to pause. The first moment of power is the pause, before the reaction, before the words, before the emotion hijacks your system. That small space, the pause, is where freedom lives. Train it, protect it, stretch it. Someone insults you? Pause. You feel triggered? Pause. Your body tenses up. Pause. The pause is not emptiness, it's awareness. And awareness is the birthplace of every conscious choice. 2. Observe without judgment. The next step is learning to observe your internal world without trying to fix, fight, or flee. You feel anger? Watch it. You feel shame? Hold it. You feel fear? Stay with it. Don't label, don't analyze, just witness. This is not passive, it's power. Because when you watch a thought without becoming it, the thought loses its grip. When you watch an emotion without collapsing into it, it starts to pass through you instead of sticking to you. This is how you become untouchable, by becoming the observer instead of the puppet. 3. Reframe the narrative. You're not reacting to reality, you're reacting to your interpretation of it. Change the narrative and you change your experience. Instead of saying, "They hurt me," ask, "What part of me was already hurting?" Instead of saying, "This is unfair," ask, "What can I learn here?" Instead of spiraling into, "Why is this happening to me?" evolve into, "What if this is happening for me?" Every trigger becomes a teacher. Every challenge becomes a mirror. Every failure becomes fuel, but only if you take responsibility for the story you're telling. 4. Limit your exposure to chaos. Your nervous system is not designed to process endless noise, yet you scroll, you watch, you absorb outrage, arguments, negativity, and then you wonder why peace feels impossible. Protect your mental diet like your life depends on it, because it does. Silence is a weapon. Stillness is medicine. Minimalism is power. Create space between you and the noise, and in that space, you will remember what peace feels like. 5. Train your body to stay present. An untouchable mind is rooted in the body. Breath is the anchor. Sensation is the compass. Presence is the portal. When your heart races, breathe slower. When your thoughts spiral, feel your feet on the ground. When emotions rise, stay with the physical sensation, not the story, because the body never lies. And the body doesn't future trip or past fixate. It just is. So use it. Breathe into the discomfort. Train your body to stay instead of flee. 6. Detach without disconnecting. You don't need to cut the world off, you need to stop letting it own you. You can love deeply and still walk away. You can care without collapsing. You can be open without being penetrated by every passing emotion. This is energetic hygiene, it's not apathy, it's alignment. You're not rejecting the world, you're just refusing to carry what's not yours. That is what makes you unshakable. Not that nothing touches you, but that nothing hooks you. Because now you know yourself. And when you know yourself and the world no longer defines you, that's the real victory. You've been taught to believe that freedom looks like control. Control over your future. Control over your image. Control over your emotions, your relationships, your success. But real freedom has nothing to do with control. Real freedom is surrender. Surrender to what is. Surrender to who you are beneath the masks. Surrender to the truth that nothing outside of you has ever held your power. Not your past, not your pain, not your parents, not your failures, not the world, only you. And now you see it. Now you understand why so much of what you chased never satisfied you. It wasn't real. It was bait for a version of you that no longer exists. The version of you that believed you had to earn love, that you had to prove your worth, that you had to keep everyone comfortable to be safe. That version is gone. And in its place stands a quieter, stronger self, one that no longer overreacts, one that no longer explains, one that no longer breaks at the first sign of chaos. This is not the numbness of apathy. This is the stillness of mastery. Because now, you don't give a shit. And not because you're angry, but because you're whole. You've remembered the secret that the mystics, the stoics, the awakened have always known. You can feel everything without being owned by anything. You can be fully alive once without becoming a slave to every wave of emotion. You can be radically loving without needing to be loved back. You can give without expecting. You can serve without attachment. You can lose and still be full. This is what it means to give nothing. Not in your heart, but in your attachment. To expect nothing. To need nothing. To hold nothing too tightly. And in that spaciousness, you feel everything. Not just pleasure, not just peace, but pain, grief, longing. All of it. Raw, real welcome. You are no longer a prisoner of your reactions. You are no longer trapped in a loop of proving and pleasing. You are no longer ruled by what others think or say or believe. You have become untouchable, not because you built walls, but because you dissolved them. You walk lighter, you breathe deeper, you speak less, but when you do, the room listens, because your energy speaks before your mouth does, because your presence is louder than your performance. You are no longer for sale. You are no longer seeking. You are no longer begging for a seat at any table. You are the table. So let them wonder what happened to you. Let them say you changed. Let them gossip, misunderstand, project. You're not here for that anymore. You're here for what's real. You're here for what's sacred. You're here to live, fully and unapologetically, in your peace, in your truth, in your own damn lane. Because now, you don't give a shit anymore. And you've never been more free.